right now, which is amazing. And everyone's from all over the world, lots of different time zones. I think it's like 4 a.m. in Australia or something like that. So definitely appreciate everybody just making the time, making this a priority. I know right now there isn't much else going on, but still just to carve out some time to talk about RoundNet, the future, how we can work together. It's just awesome to see all these faces on one call from so many different parts of the world. So basically, what we wanted to do today was mainly bring all the leaders and all the groups from different parts of the country together, just to be able to facilitate a conversation, have you guys, share best practices for people trying to grow a sport, trying to run events where you're gathering lots of groups together and trying to promote something. It's a tough time. So I think there's stuff that I'm sure you're all doing that you found helps keep your communities going and helps keep stuff moving in the right direction. We wanted to share a little bit about like different things we're working on, how we're thinking about the pandemic, how it's been affecting us, and kind of like what we see as the future of all of us working together to really push this sport to the next level. So at any point, feel free to jump in, questions, comments, anything like that. Also, I know we sent this out as like a 2-hour time block. Hopefully that didn't scare anyone. I mean, everyone showed up for this call, so that's amazing. I don't expect this to take 2 hours. I think this is fine if it takes, 45 minutes. But a lot of times you schedule a call like this with a lot of people and you feel like you have to cut off conversations a little short just to keep everything moving. So by no means is our goal to fill 2 hours worth of time. But it also gives us the flexibility where if we really get on a topic that there's a lot of good stuff we could dig into, we don't have to cut it short. That said, we're not going to try to just drag this out to fill up the whole amount of time. So a little bit about what we've been working on. This meeting comes at an interesting time because we just made the announcement Friday about Worlds. And here we have a group of, probably a lot of people that would have made up that tournament, that would have been bringing teams and coordinating. And so I know that just sucks. It's like no one wanted that to have to be the decision. So I wanted to explain just a little bit about how we made that decision, why we made that decision, and like where we go from here. So in terms of Worlds, obviously it's at a different scale than anything else we'd ever done before. And the way that we were kind of measuring success was looking at the metric of how many different countries can we get to participate. So, there's a lot of ways you could measure, a tournament and how successful it's been. It wasn't even about size for us. For us, Worlds was about representation. And we knew that in the current situation we were in, even if we were technically allowed to run that event, it would have just really hurt people's ability to attend if they wanted to. And we didn't want the first World Championship to have anything around it where it was this feeling of, maybe France could have been could have come and been a contender, but they decided to make a call for safety that didn't allow them to be there. We didn't want people to have to make that choice. The other thing about it was we knew if we ran the event, it wasn't going to be the type of event we wanted. So yes, we were coming together for competition, but we really also wanted it to be an opportunity where groups like this on this Zoom call could get in a room, could talk, could, fill up a whiteboard with ideas and actions and, really have it kind of be a global forum beyond just an opportunity to play RoundNet. And a social thing, a chance for us all to really get to know each other, to hang out, to be in close quarters. And I just don't think that on any level we could have done it in the way that would have done it justice. We might have been able to run an event, but it wouldn't have been the way you want to start off a World Championship. And for us announcing it, we had made the decision a little earlier about, hey, this isn't going to be the right call. It was important for us to be able to say, we have some next steps coming, and this is a postponement, not a cancellation. So those are all the reasons kind of behind Worlds. It's definitely the thing that we were most looking forward to doing this year. And I know the guys from Belgium are on this call. We've probably had, I don't know, 20 different calls just leading up and building and, getting all these plans in order. And so it really was a tough decision, but we think it's the right one. And something I wanted to talk about on this call is just, and give everybody a chance to kind of share what's going on in their area and how they're thinking about this, is your guys' thought processes on kind of starting things up, getting play going again, and how that's going to work. And I don't think there's a like one size fits all solution. I can share a little bit about how we're thinking about it at Spikeball, at Spikeball Inc., which, may or may not be a match for the size of your group, for what's going on where you live. But basically for us, our events are, mainly domestic. We have some people come from Canada to play. But aside from that, we're running domestic events, but we're not running like a localized sports league. We have no geographic boundary on our tournament. If we run an event in Utah, it's not only open to people from Utah. So when we're making considerations about when do we open, we really can't do it at a local scale. We have to look at a national scale. Now, you guys might have more of a luxury of, everyone's coming from the same place, is going to have the same sort of guidelines and restrictions. For us, we might run a tournament in Utah and someone from New York, which is currently like the epicenter of everything in the US, is likely to go. And so what does that mean? It's probably too much to ask to monitor every single team that registers and where they're from and are they following the practices. And as just like from a business standpoint, there could be too much risk in running a national level event and while there's restrictions in certain parts. So, we're looking for really there to be no stay-at-home orders. We're looking for events of at least 500 people to be deemed, like runnable, playable. And that's not because we couldn't do a smaller event. It's because at a certain scale, all the work into doing it, if we had to run a 50-person event and we had to cap it so low, the amount of expense we would incur just to do that, we need it to be bigger to make it work and make sense. And also along that lines, whatever the standards are of how big it can be, we don't want them to say there's a 500-person event and we run a 499-person event. Because even if you're allowed to do it, if something happened there, then it's just not a good look on our organization. Like the question would be, why did you guys run it so borderline to what was acceptable? So I think we're also looking to just kind of maintain a safe buffer zone. So to me, that's like not getting within around 25% of whatever the recommendation is, just so we know, hey, if the speed limit is 60, we're going 50. We're not trying to like get too close where we cause something dangerous to happen. And I think this is the tricky part, and maybe you guys are dealing with this as well, is we really have to weigh what we would need to do in order to make it safe to do it at scale. So at a certain point, if everyone's wearing masks or we're taking everyone's temperature and there's this whole list of things we have to do, it might start to outweigh the actual experience. And we don't want to give people a bad experience by trying to make it happen versus waiting for the right time to make it happen. And that's harder for people to grasp, who are just like want to play and maybe there's not a big deal where they live locally and they're like, why can't we do this? For us, and like a lot of you guys, your organizations, and you have to kind of balance it with who, like, what is this going to mean if something happens? Like, and that can be a harder decision. So we want people to have a great experience. We want everyone who comes to something to want to come back. And if we don't think that we could do it at a level that's going to be on par with, what we've done before, then that's also definitely a consideration. So I guess I'd like to just I'm going to go through just a couple more things and then just like open it up to this sort of conversation about reopening, what's going on in your area, what's working, any best practices you've had. So with everything being shut down, basically in terms of events for us at Spikeball, what we've been focused on is a little more on the content side. We've been trying to keep people engaged with, just a streaming series. This week, we're going to try to do a live stream of an actual match of people that have been quarantined together. So no risk. These are people that were living together. We did a Facebook poll, who's got the best, house of roommates that's already living together. And so we're basically sending them some equipment, getting it online and letting people watch. And so we're looking for those sorts of things to be able to keep people engaged without really coming close to putting anyone at risk or making anyone make a decision that could be a tough decision or that could be a risky decision. So content's definitely one thing we're focused on right now, and probably something that you guys could also do as well. Another thing that we're focused on is testing. So if you've been following along on our Facebook group, there's been a lot, I think, because there hasn't been playing, a lot of people are just thinking about like, hey, what could make play better? So I think now's a really great opportunity to get some solid testing in, to try some new things out. Even if you only have a group of 4, you can't run a huge event, you can still try a new modification, equipment, rule-wise, get some good data on it and think about like, what might be the future, what could work. So that's where our head is at. And then one final piece of learning that came, just a little update on something we're working on. Running Worlds, we realized, like we have the SRA, Spikeball Roundnet Association, but the basis of that was really, it started out as a domestic US-based organization. So the makeup of that is a domestic US-based, format. We have our entire board is from the US, and it doesn't really make sense as the organization that would represent how we play internationally, how we set those standards, those formats, pick locations and things like that. So one big project that we're working on in this time off is putting together an international board that can better represent the ways that better represent our community right now in the international aspect, and really give more perspective to the decisions around events that are run internationally and how we work together, with different ways that we play, formats that we use, and all of those things that we need to kind of meld together in order to have a really good international competition. So that's one big project we're working on and excited about. But let's open it up a little bit. I think, Nora, you have a poll, right? Just kind of want to get a sense of this whole group, how the pandemic has affected you guys so far, and kind of like when you think, if you've had to stop playing, when you think you can get back to playing, like what your timelines look like. So let's do that poll and we can open up the conversation from there and hear what people are doing.
If
So
you
when
are on the computer, it should have popped up in front of you. If you're on your phone, you're going to have to tap something at the top of the screen. I forget what it says, and that will drop down the poll. I think that should be everyone because we have 6 Spikeball employees. All right, we'll go with that. All right. Share results.
Okay, so
A while.
yeah, I'd say these results are pretty similar to what we think for the most part. Um, we think June is basically just very doubtful at all. July, maybe. Um, but yeah, it's hard to say. But yeah, September 1st is most people, so that kind of means that for most people, the majority of the season is knocked out. Um, One question I was curious about was for all the countries here, um, if you guys think that you'll be able to run a national championship within 2020. So is there anyone right now that is part of a national organization that has already decided like you're done for the year or you're not having an event that big? Are there any groups that already have a clear starting point or a clear decision around uh, what the season's going to look like?
Yeah, not sure if you can hear me. It's 4 a.m. in Australia here, so I'm not going to be too loud. I've got some sleeping kids behind me. We don't have any clear starting points yet, but we are looking at the full economy opening up by July. That's ideally we go that way. The state that I'm in is probably one of the most heavily restricted, so that could be we could be a little bit slower on that timetable. But with July opening and July lining up with our winter, we are likely to be able to get back up and running as we come into spring and summer. So, and traditionally we have run a national tournament later in the year. So there is a chance that we could actually pull off a national tournament, say in November or something like that, with a few state tournaments in the lead up to that. So that's the position we're in at the moment. But yeah, nothing's in concrete, that's for sure.
Nora, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is it possible to make a poll that where people could put in, if they're from a national organization, their country, and uh, if they expect to be able to run a national championship this year? Is that asking too much?
We're gonna find out.
Because this
I
is,
think I can. Okay, no, I can make another one. So, will you run a national championship this year? That's the question.
and I think we need to know what country it is, just so.
Uh, they cannot add answers. It's yes or no.
Okay, well, uh, all right, let's go. Let's go with that, just to get a kind of straw poll.
Okay. As fast as I can type. Yes. No. Nationals. Save. All right. Now we're back in here. That worked. All right. I guess so. With this, like, high chance, yes. I know everyone wants to, but that was actually easier than I thought. Has everyone voted? I assume some of you might have just done one from every country. All right. Almost 50-50.
Okay, so for the countries who think no, can you uh, just call out
Yell
what?
out.
Yeah. This is gonna be a little chaos, but I'm just trying to.
Or no, just put yourself in chat. Put your country in
Oh yeah,
chat.
you can just put it in the chat. That's good.
So if you're a no, put your country in chat. So we got Canada, Brazil, Austria, France. There should be 10, I think. Check. Nami said USA doesn't kinda.
You're welcome.
Peru, no. Poland, no. Spain is unsure. Hong Kong, no.
Okay, so why don't we just open it up a little bit? So obviously, like, there's not much play happening. Tournaments are kind of at a standstill. Is there anything that any group is doing that you're finding is keeping your communities engaged, is helping you to continue to spread awareness or just to stay connected? Basically, best practices that you've found from running your organization. It can be related to, if it's related to during this current situation we're in, that's great. But if it's just something that you want to share as a best practice of running around that organization, that's fine too. Anything people have that they've done or want to try?
Hey, Jack, I'll go ahead and throw this out because I'll have to jump off in a little bit. But we actually leagues are something we've wanted to do, and I'm with Texas Roundnet, part of the U.S., and they're allowing 4-person like non-contact sports. So Roundnet would fall into that. So we had at least one city reach out to us, like interested in running a league, and we've had a lot of players obviously interested in playing as well. So we're going to try to use this time to run a league, and we kind of set aside some guidelines, and I can post those in the chat, just on how we're going to run the leagues and run that by cities, just to kind of make it to where when people come, when people come, like, they're only interacting with the other team they're playing. So we have that in there, and then just disinfecting everything, making sure it's clean, and then no pickup games at it. Because right now we do a lot of pickup games in general, but we're not doing it right now just because in those people are mixing up and mashing up. So leagues are actually one of the only instances where we are able to have 4 people play and then leave and not interact with others. And so I would love for y'all to read those over, and if you have suggestions or ideas, get feedback. But that's kind of what we're doing for those precautions, and then we're just doing some content stuff just because it seems like a lot of people, certainly in this group and outside of it, are all interested in our organizations, especially the players in our system, want to know more about it. So we're just kind of doing a live stream, going over kind of our organization, its history, how we did it, just kind of teaching people, and then telling people the vision, kind of give an idea of how we're doing all this as well. So just getting people more in on the inside of how it all works and how we see the future of it. And a lot of people, at least involved in the Texas system, are excited in that. So those are 2 things we're kind of looking at doing right now. And if you are interested in looking at them, I posted the links in the chat. So we're hoping to engage in that and get some competition, at least on a smaller level. And we're hoping that the leagues will allow us to connect with cities and people that normally wouldn't, because this is a sport that can be played right now for us in a fashion that is following guidelines.
Cool. That's awesome, Logan. Thanks for sharing those resources. Anybody else?
Hey guys, I'm Rafael from Brazil. Probably the most part of you doesn't know me, but nice to meet you all. It's very tough for us here in Brazil, the situation. It's now the curve is getting high and high. It's scare a lot of people. It's desperate. What we are doing here as an association for RoundNet? In the first weeks of April, we try to keep the players engaged by doing some home exercise, home spike ball. So set up your spike ball set. Let's play against the wall. Let's play different tricks. It was very good, but so far it doesn't work anymore because people got tired to doing this kind of stuff, and we saw it's not more effective anymore. What I'm seeing right now, I'm trying to keep the group of players engaged with WhatsApp, Facebook group of players you have, in Instagram. But one thing that caught my attention in these 2 last weeks was the number of teachers, of physical education teachers, looking for a round net, looking for a spike ball to understand more, to try to use this sport in their classes. So it's very good in this certain time for us, and I'm spending a lot of my time talking with these teachers and explain about the round net, what's the possibilities, how good it is, because all the teachers in Brazil especially, they are not working because schools are closed, universities are closed too. So they are trying to find a different approach to earn some money and to do something with their students. So we are trying to reach this group more intensively, this group of professors and physical educators.
That's and one of the things I'm trying to figure out while we're having this conversation and listening to this stuff is like, are there ways we at Spikeball can help you guys do what you're trying to do? So I think one idea that came up, and this came up with another ambassador I was talking to, was they're like, yeah, it's like there's a lot of interest in school, but in the certain area that they were in, they said like without any sort of like certification or anything a little formal, it's hard to bridge that gap to get in. And so potentially from like, how can we help facilitate that is there like a certification that we could give you guys where, Skylar, who's on the call, is our school specialist, where he could, and we obviously we have curriculum that we can share with you guys if you help you in that regard. But if it is just the fact of like, hey, I need to be able to appear more formal, to be able to present myself, to be able to work with these teachers, that could potentially be something cool that we could do, is to to help give you some sort of more legitimacy through a formal sort of certification. So that was one idea that I thought of while you're talking. Something else, like I think you're totally right about like those little content things, kind of, they fizzle out, like you can't keep them up forever. And we tried to, or we've been organizing a stream series, and one of the things I was thinking was like, I don't know how many, not to do another poll, but I guess just like raise your hand and I could get a sense of, from the video screens, how many people like attended one of those streams that was about a different round net topic. So in my rough math, which is probably totally off, it seems like under 50%, maybe like 40%. Because another thing I'm thinking is like, we obviously didn't work together to coordinate that content series. So there's a chance that like people that would be interested in it just didn't even know about it. Or maybe it felt so broad that this is a flowing conversation. So this might be terrible with someone that would be interesting to your communities, to be like basically a guest star or co-host of something where you can ask them questions. Like if we took some of our top players and like had a Q&A just for Brazil, where we took Chiswick Showalter and said, hey, you've got an exclusive to ask questions to our top US team, or whoever that group is. Like that could maybe be a cool way to help you guys with your own sort of engaging content. But just some random ideas. I'll open it back up. Other people who have done stuff that has kind of kept your community going or has been successful, or you're trying to something you're thinking of trying?
Yeah. Hi, just Jack from GB RailNet. Hi guys. I'm just jumping back on that topic of teaching, because at GB RailNet we've got two like grassroots people in our team. So we've got a team of 10 who work with GB RailNet, and we've got two who are all about grassroots and bringing it up from the school level. Now we've just started GB RailNet, like our large team has all just come together this year, and it's just such a shame that the virus has come when it has. But in terms of teaching, we've got a curriculum for set up for schools and is ready to roll out into schools once we find schools who are interested. But I think one thing that we've been thinking about is, again, as you say, working out how to make that curriculum that has been created by two PE teachers for Spikeball for schools in England, Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, how we can make that look more Spikeball official as such, and having a way to kind of like certify our schools program from a Spikeball perspective might help, as you say, make it look more formal to the schools that we present it to. So that's just one thing, just jumping onto the teacher conversation. And then kind of what we're up to in Great Britain is, we're not starting anything until September at the earliest. We don't really know what's happening here. It's going to be a few months, so we're just planning to work out what we're going to do next season, but hopefully we can do a nationals in September or October, because our nationals only get maybe 80 people, but hopefully we'll have more this year. But hopefully we'll have a national tournament. So we're looking to plan that one and get the location kind of sorted. And then we're also just, we started a new newsletter, a monthly newsletter, which goes out to all our subscribers. And then that just updates people on what we're doing, what's going on behind the scenes, and how they can get involved at home, and that kind of thing. But it's just keeping the content up and doing what we can in this time, and just trying to make sure that people know what our response is to what's going on with the virus, and letting people know how long it's going to be until they can get back out.
Awesome.
Yeah. So hi guys.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Taylor from Utah RailNet. So we just got from our Utah Health Department. They came back just a couple of weeks ago and authorized groups of 20 to get together. Obviously, still staying cautious, good hygiene, trying to stay spaced out as much as possible. So we've started to do some coordinated pickup games. We have just 3 per week in different areas of the state right now. So we've been getting between 12 to 20 people at those. So it's been good just to kind of get people out again. We're hoping by the end of this month, they move the risk level down again, and low risk will allow team sports again with some precautions. So we're just working with all the Parks and Rec departments that we are working with, and staying on top of communication with them to see if we're going to be able to do anything, at least run some small tournaments. I know some of them have already gotten canceled, but that's kind of what we're doing here in Utah. So just some small pickup games for now.
Yeah, hi guys. This is Hani from around that Egypt. Yeah, so in Egypt, actually the curve is still going up, yet the numbers are still not that high compared to many countries. What the government is saying so far that things will gradually start to be back to life starting end of months. So June, gradually things will start to get up. Maybe sports facilities will be open in June, maybe in July maximum, I assume. But anyway, in June and July, people usually travel to the beach and stuff like this. So we are expecting we can host nationals maybe in September and October as well. But anyway, people are currently actually out of control. They play anywhere in the street, in the gardens. People are active. It's the only sport actually they can play now around with their friends. So yeah, this is for the situation. We've done some stuff during the last weeks. One of the things, we hosted like a giveaway on Instagram, and that got our engagement very high during the last actually week. People start to feel, yeah, we are still here. People watching the videos, asking about tournaments, and so on. So um, giveaway is one of the actually things that I think can work with everyone for getting people engaged with the organization. Um, I think as well, sharing videos on how to play, like the kind of the live streaming Spikeball did was great. I think as well, stuff like doing like a live video analysis that people can watch, where an analysis of tournament finals on how this shot was done, how this play was done, and stuff like this can be interesting to some people. The last thing I was thinking about was, as well as Jack mentioned, is the like hosting online courses for coaches, for referees, or even for simply how to play the sport. Um, I did already this with dodgeball, hosting online courses, and we had like 100 participants joined it, just a small one for free, like 40 minutes, 1 hour maximum, just the basics on how to coach or how to help people play the sport, stuff like this. And it went very great. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think we've done more in the way of teacher certification stuff and training teachers. I don't think that as a company we've gotten into like the training coaches, but that's a really interesting angle. I like that. Any other ideas, things people have tried or thinking of trying? Okay, so let's do another poll. This is, I think we might have this information, but some of it's just a little bit updated. Wanted to hear about what type of organization each of you guys run. Is it are you like an informal group where you're just friends running the group? Is it a business? Is it a nonprofit? And then are you guys already recognized as a sports organization by whatever national sports association you have, or is that something you're trying to do, or is that not even in the works yet? So it would just be interesting to see, part of what we're thinking about is long-term, which, we don't have. I think it's every sports idea of like success is, hey, we're in the Olympics one day. What we're trying to set up is that we're doing things in the right way, where as we're building, we're not building stuff out in a way that is completely opposite to the Olympic model. So we're trying to just understand how close we are, and move in the right direction. Obviously, it would be way far in the future probably before we could get to check all the boxes that we need to do. But it's very encouraging, this call with all these different groups represented. One of the first steps for us to move the sport closer towards a sport that's even considered for the Olympics is to have at least 40 national governing bodies. And so, I know that we have some more local groups here and things like that, but like this is moving it in the right direction. And we just kind of want to understand where everybody is and what type of organization they have, so that we can keep supporting you and helping push it that way. So, Nora, do you have another poll that kind of asks about the type of group?
I am ready. Yes, and I counted 18 countries here, so we're almost halfway there. I think nonprofit's a universal term. Jack, I just changed it to registered business versus LLC because I don't know if that's a universal term.
Yeah,
But
sure.
if what you are is not on here, then I guess just put informal and you can let us know in chat. But do you see the poll move as you answer, or are you just answering? I've never been on the other side of this.
Oh, until you like
Show.
close the poll, you don't see anything.
Okay. For me, it's like bouncing around. Also, if you have multiple from your organization in here, you can still all fill it out because I'll get the result at the end so I can filter it for the like real results. All right, everybody in. All right. So
Cool. So it looks like almost 50% is nonprofit, which is great. And we have 13% that are recognized by their country. So that's really interesting. So I'd love to hear from any of the groups that are recognized by their country. What was that process like? How did it work? And is there anything you can share for these other groups here that run a national organization or run a statewide organization or something like that, where that might be helpful to just get to that next level of recognition?
Jack, not you, Jack, other Jack. You put in what Great Britain's doing. If you want to just talk that through a little more.
Yeah. So we've been working as a informal organisation for 3 or 4 years. Tom, who's in the call, Tom Rogers, started UK RoundNet when he was at university, and it really picked up. And then since he's moved over to Spikeball with you guys, I've kind of taken the reins, and we became a registered business in January. And we are looking at all of the options to become a registered sporting body in the UK as quickly as possible. But there is so much kind of red tape, and there's so many hoops to jump through, and so many boxes to tick with what they want us to do. I mean, it's going to be different for every country for what they want you to do. In some places might be easier than others. But for us, they want a minimum of 1,500 registered members on a database. And I mean, at the moment, we've only got 30 or 40. So we've got a long way to go, but we did only start our membership system literally a month ago. And obviously that wasn't great timing. But yeah, so I mean, that's just one of the many things we've got to do. We've got to show that we've got a full governing body, which we do now. There's 10 of us, which is amazing. But there's loads of little things you got to go through, at least on our end anyway. And they want at least 2 years worth of evidence, which means that since we become a registered business, we can't actually become a registered sporting body until January 2022, which is quite annoying when everything is in place. Apart from the members, everything's in place, but we just have to wait it out and just keep developing it as a sport and keep kind of nurturing it together. So yeah, it's going to take some time, and I'm sure it will for others.
Yeah, Jack, I feel your pain. We have a pretty bureaucratic system as well. We actually have to have, we've been running as an incorporated association in the state of Victoria since 2016. But unfortunately, that really demanding checklist from the federal government, that's the Australian government, requires that we have a new body, which is, I think, similar to what you've said. It's a business, but operating as a not-for-profit. So it is basically a company for this, what is it? Guaranteed by limited guarantee, something like that. And we have to be in operation for 3 years, showing full financials for 3 years. So that's before we can become a national sporting organisation. So yeah, I feel your pain. We're in it for the long haul as well. And the only thing I would say, I know, Jack, your question was about those who are registered and recognised. But from our point of view, I'd encourage people to jump in as soon as you can into your government checklist and check out what is required, because it may be painful and it may be long. So the sooner you get in. Another thing is changing entities is expensive too. So changing names, changing the whole structure and that sort of stuff, it costs a lot of money. So the fewer times you have to do it, the better. All the best.
This is very similar to what I chat about with the college kids creating clubs at their schools. And it might be a pain in your butt now, but it's an investment in the future for all of us. So like, Jack, you might move on to, I don't know, badminton in 2 years, but you started this track for Great Britain Round Net. So put in the effort now, and it helps all of us in the end.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we're working on putting together that international board, and we're following all of these requirements just to make sure that we're setting up in the right way to down the line be able to get acceptance into things like the Global Association of International Sports Federations, and to be doing things in the right way where we can get our sport into the World Games. And it's expensive and it's time consuming, but like at some point we're just like, we know where we want to go. We have to do this now. So I think that was great advice about just, figuring it out earlier on than later on to save yourself some hassle, even if, it's going to be a hassle either way, but changing is harder than just starting it out in the right direction. I would love to hear from anybody else who's in the process of doing it, or just like the I don't know which country or which group actually is already recognized, but I'd love to hear just how that happened, what you needed to do, and what benefits maybe that provides you of getting that recognition. So anyone who's in that 13%?
We had 3 yeses, so somebody.
No one? Someone just fell asleep on the keyboard? Okay. If we don't have that, that's okay.
Jack, can I just jump in there? Because one thing we're, as I said, not recognised yet, but one thing that we're doing is looking at sports that are recognised from a federal or national point of view, and working out how we can work with them. So we're building a stronger connection with volleyball. So you'll all have nationally recognised volleyball associations, and there's a lot of, and there's other sports as well that have similar skill sets. Volleyball, well, really all sports are doing what trying to check all the boxes that you were talking about, Jack, in terms of getting the right sort of membership, but also when they're applying for grants and funding and that sort of thing, they need to prove that their community is growing, that their community is active and engaged. So we're talking more closely with volleyball about how we can help them check some more boxes, and that is expanding the amount of people who are engaged and the regularity of their engagement. So for them, they can see spike ball and round net as a pathway into their sport, and a way of sort of getting people the fringes connected with skills and learning skills and developing skills that are complementary to volleyball. So from our point of view, given we're in a pretty bureaucratic system. It's going to take us 3 years to get that recognized status. We're trying to work with organizations that already have that, so we can sort of run off a bit of their success, and in that intervening couple of years, have as much advantage of working closely with organizations who have that already. So that might be similar for a lot of other countries too.
Yeah, that's also good advice. And Jack from GB RoundNet mentioned the need for tracking membership. I'm curious, and we could just use the chat to kind of dig into this a little bit. But how many of your groups, whether you're at a national level, a statewide level, a regional level, have a formal membership policy? Like people register as members versus just, hey, we had this many people register for a tournament, but you actually have a membership that you can track, and you track over over the years, and you have some database of it. So if you guys can just type into chat, I guess you probably, the country is already in there, but do you have a formal membership system? And if so, you could either type something quick about how it works, or like, I'd love to hear different people explain sort of how they handle membership, and like why people would, want to be a member versus just going to your event, like what engages them in being a member officially. So take a couple seconds, type it in, but if anyone wants to jump in and kind of talk about their membership situation, where they're at, anything they've learned, how they've gotten growth, I think that could be helpful for everybody.
I see a couple not yet, so if that's something you're in the process of, just put that in the chat too.
I think the hard one with kind of working out how many members you've got and tracking how many members you've got is often that these kind of systems that track it or hold the data in a secure way that's kind of legal and safe, because you can't just store loads of emails and everyone's phone numbers and addresses in a book. You need to store them securely. They often come at a cost, and I think working out what's going to be best for your organization, whether you're national or local, because I know that some local organizations can also track how many members they've got, and then they can all band together to work out how many they've got as a nation. But yeah, I think looking at what options work best for you as a kind of RRO. I mean, it took us a long time to come to the decision to work with the people who we're working with. But I think once you've made an investment, and if you have the ability to do so, however you manage to make up that those expenses and funds, it's definitely, once you've set the foundations, you're just going to start to churn up memberships.
Yeah, and I would say just from our own experience at Spikeball, we've kind of gone back and forth on membership. So originally when we required membership, the main reason for it was that we wanted to make sure we could insure every player that was going to be at an event. So when you paid for your membership, we bought a year's worth of insurance for you specifically at any sort of Spikeball event. And we eventually got rid of our required membership because we saw it as a barrier to entry for a lot of people who just wanted to test that, like they had never played in a tournament and now they're deciding if they want to pay for a membership and go to a tournament, and it was too much friction at the way in. So we removed the required membership, and but we still are doing insurance for everyone. And so what we did was we adjusted our prices so that instead of buying a year's worth of insurance for anyone that played in an event, and one of the things we looked at is most people don't, since our series is so spread out, across different states, the majority of people are playing in the one event that is, near them. So them having to purchase a membership to do this one event felt like they were buying something they didn't needed. So we switched it to just building the cost of insurance into our registration costs. And so now whenever you sign up for an event, we buy you an individual day's worth of insurance to cover just at the event. And that's personal liability insurance on top of just like our event insurance. And so we started having it, require membership for everyone. Then we got rid of it and built the insurance in. Now we use membership as almost like a bundled purchase. So if you buy a membership, if you go to 5 events, you get a discount on every event you go to. But that doesn't do a great job of tracking how many people are actually playing, which is, I think, in a lot of times what the membership is needed for, to make the case for, recognition from different groups. And I'll just plug the software we use, which I have no reason to, I don't get anything if anyone uses it. I just want to say it's it costs $1 per registration. There's no upfront cost. We use a software called Red Podium, and they do have built-in membership features that you can configure how you want to use it, where you could, store the membership, export it, put incentives on membership, discounted prices, things like that. So I have no agenda for pushing that, except that I just think it's a good resource. If you're trying to find something that doesn't have a huge upfront startup cost, they're just based on, taking a piece of, I think it's $1 per transaction. So as long as that math works out, it's a pretty safe way to get started with something. Cool. Anybody else have things that have worked for them, membership wise, or, that they want to talk to or share with the group?
I'm curious, kind of just what are people's, I'm the same way. I've never offered memberships. I've never bought into them myself. I put in the chat. Again, kind of barrier to entry, like you mentioned, Jack. I'm curious what the people who do memberships, what is the selling point of that? I know I've heard you get a t-shirt, you maybe get a $5 discount at tournaments, type of thing. I wonder, is there anything else I'm missing here that, if there is a really good value and a good way, that is better to offer that, I'm all ears. I'm just kind of curious, people who have done it.
I know I can speak to, I played Ultimate Frisbee in college, and, college kids, they have no money. You don't want to pay for a membership you don't need. And the reason that Ultimate has memberships, at least USA Ultimate, is to cover the insurance costs of the events. That's the main reason behind it. That's the same way we used it at Spikeball. But how they get college kids to buy it is, if you want to play in the championship series, you have to prove that you're a USA Ultimate member. And that was really yes, they send out a magazine and a newsletter and all this stuff, but as a college kid, I didn't care about any of that. The only reason I got my membership was so I could play in the national championship. So I don't know. I'd be curious as well, Taylor, is how you make that value proposition beyond just actually creating a barrier.
I think for us, kind of 2021, 2022 plans is we're hoping to create a system of recording stats for players, and that will come along with membership. So if you're a member, your stats will be recorded, and we'll have an app where you can check your rankings that will tie in with our Texas Top 100. And granted, we don't do that now. It's something that we're looking to do in 2021, 2022. So it's you'll just have these recorded stats that we'll go over and get for you, and then we'll probably tie it in with our current hub discounts as well. And partly for us, just we'll have better numbers of hey, these are the amount of people part of our organization, so we can use that to go to other organizations for sponsors. Hey, this is how many committed members we have with it. So getting those numbers would be good. Granted, those are all tentative plans right now. So that's just kind of our thinking behind it right now. And someone who's actually instituted may have a better answer than myself.
I think overall, I might be totally wrong, but I think in general, by all sports, it's really just used for that database. So I remember growing up, I had a USA Hockey card. I don't think you paid for it or anything, but you had to register with USA Hockey to play in games. So I think you could do memberships without cost. You don't have to have little incentives, but basically you're registered with the organization. I think it's mainly a numbers game.
Yeah, I definitely back that up, especially I think, the point you made, you don't actually have to pay for it. So if you want to start a membership system, you could start one and just, I don't know how, whether this is correct advice or not, but you could just use Google Forms and just collect people's data through there and store it securely on an Excel spreadsheet. And then you've got a list of people's, all the information you need to then make a case to your national or local board to become a recognised sport. I mean, for us, we have our memberships in place so that in the future we're working on the insurance thing. So we don't actually offer insurance on our membership at the moment, but our membership is £5 and you get £7.50 off tournaments over the course of the year. So, and you don't need a membership to go to tournaments. So it's not a barrier. For us, we see our membership as more of an incentive to come to tournaments, because if you pay £5 and you go to 3 tournaments, you're saving £7.50. So you're making £2.50. Yeah, £2.50 isn't much, but to a lot of people, money is money and you're making money. So it's a good incentive in a way to actually get people to come to tournaments. We're looking in the future to barrier some events so that they're membership only. But again, we like to see our membership as kind of like fostering a community in a way, and using that membership to reinvest in the sport. So we're a non-for-profit, and therefore the only way we can actually earn money, well, not earn money, but get money to then spend it back on the players, is by getting money through tournaments or by now getting money through memberships. And we make that really clear to people that when they buy a membership, that isn't money coming to us and we're running off and going and buying a Lamborghini or whatever. We are reinvesting that money back into the sport so that we can make their tournaments bigger and better. So the only way that the sport can be invested in is if the actual players invest in the sport themselves. And it's a really hard kind of bargain to play. But the more we push that at our tournaments in the future, hopefully people will realise that actually they're not just giving away £5, they're giving us £5 to put back into them, and that £5 will become £10.
Yeah, and I think that was good advice. I forgot, we actually did the same thing when we had a required membership, was that we had a starter level one that cost $10 and we gave you $10 off your first tournament. So it was just like, we want to have that database. We want you to buy in, and we want you to like, hopefully then have more incentive. It basically costs nothing, but now you attend a tournament. And we have like this good list of members that opted in, that is real and authentic. Awesome. Anyone else on this topic?
Yeah, just one thing to add. We've kind of followed a little bit of the process that you've set up in terms of having recognized RoundNet organizations. So for us, we thought that if we, and we are a national body for those who aren't, probably doesn't apply, but if we encourage clubs to become recognized RoundNet clubs, then they need to submit a form. They have to have at least 4 members, based on having to have at least 4 people to play the game. So if they want to become a recognised RoundNet club by RoundNet Australia, they submit a form, and then we get 4 members. So it's $40, so $10 a team member. That just, again, helps us to get that detail so that we can argue that the sport is growing and get a bit of a baseline and grow from there. But yeah, that was one way we threw in an incentive. You want to be recognised, you want to take your game to the next level, become a club. The buy-in is very low, but at the same time, it's something, and they can say, yeah, we're official, we're a recognised RoundNet club, and it just encourages that next level of seriousness for the sport.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think membership is a big thing of just like, however you decide to do it, showing that you're making progress and making growth and being able to make that case for the next level of recognition. I think the other big thing, which I know like we really don't have as much control over this year, is if groups are throwing a championship. So if you're a statewide group, do you have a state championship? If you're a national group, do you have a national championship? Because those are the things that even at at the international level, they're looking for a track record of world championships. And that was one of the reasons why we were excited about getting this a world championship started this year, is we haven't had one yet. And we have to start building that history just to be able to give us, put us in the right position to take the next step. So a lot of these things, it's a very long-term investment, but we knew that we needed to start doing world championships if we wanted eventually, take it to the next level. And I think at a national scale or at a statewide scale, it's the same sort of thing. They want to see that you're organizing nationally. And so I think that, obviously you're all going to make your own decisions on what's safe and what's possible. But, if there's one tournament you can do, if you can just make it the national championship and, start establishing, or keeping that sort of track record going, I think that goes a long way when we start to tell the story about our sport. So one of the things I think about as at like a worldwide level, at an international level, is, how many national championships can we say take place in the world? I think that's a really great metric for how strong our sport is internationally. I don't know the exact number. I think I could take a close guess at it, but I think that it's just a good thing to look at of like, hey, now it's really serious. There's a recognized organization hosting a national championship. There's world championships happening. Like, people are going to have to take our sport seriously when we can start to tell that story with numbers of national championships, of members. And so that's why I think it's just like us having these conversations about, how we're doing it and just bringing it all together lets us move quicker in that direction. I'm just gonna, so we're over an hour now. But like I said, I don't want to just like drag this out to be longer than it needs to be, but I wanted to just open it up to any sorts of questions. If you have questions about stuff that we brought up, or just questions because we're all on a call and, something you're curious about, this can be just like the open Q&A period. It doesn't have to be directed at us. It could be directed to any group in here that you've seen them do something cool and you wanted to ask them more about it or whatever. But if you do need to hop off, again, thank you for just like being part of this. I want to do more of these. I know it's hard to get so many people on a call from so many different time zones, but it's really helpful, even just from my perspective, to understand all the great stuff that you're already doing and think about ways that we can help you do it even better. But yeah, any questions? Let's just have this be the open period for anything we didn't get to talk about that you guys wanted to bring up.
And we are recording this, so it will be on YouTube and shared with you guys later.
Well, it's not a question, but it's just a comment. It was incredible, this opportunity to talk with you guys. So Jack, Nora, all the guys of Spikeball, congratulations to this initiative. It was very good for us that we're not in the United States. We are kind of far away from you. So this exchange of information is incredible. So topics like membership, and the schools that we talked earlier. So it's very good if you can do some more often this kind of conversations. I think it's should be very helpful for everybody. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
I appreciate that.
I have a suggestion that can help all the RoundNet organizations grow. I think in many countries, many people are not aware they have a RoundNet organization in their country, but at the same time, they are following Spikeball and Spikeball RoundNet Association and so on, but they are not aware they have something in their own country. So what I suggest or can happen is how Spikeball and Spikeball RoundNet Association can help promote the recognized RoundNet organization through maybe like every day posting a story about, hey, we have this organization with this, showing the logo with a tag for this RoundNet organization, so people from their country can see this and connect with the profile or the Instagram profile of this country, and this can help us all spread.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. And like, I know that we do newsletter emails, and at the bottom of every newsletter email, we have just a list of states, and it says the largest game in each state. And it's like, you might see that and be like, I didn't know anyone played in South Dakota, and they only have a game that's, 12 teams, 12 people participate in. Let me go out and try to be. So like creates awareness by showing the whole thing. I want to take some time and think about what are other ways we can create awareness that we have this strong international group and that we can point people in your direction. So like our newsletter, is over 100,000 people. How many people are going to see it and go? I don't know if that's the most effective way to do that, but I think there are some things. I also think like if we can find things that we're all doing that are common, like then I think it can become almost like newsworthy. So I might not care, or it might not interest me to know about like a local event in some place where I'm never going to like have the opportunity to hop on a plane and go and participate. But if we know that, hey, everyone's hosting these national championships, we can put together an awesome post of like every place, every country on the planet that had a national championship and what organization ran it and those links. Then it like lets us weave that story together, so it doesn't feel like one off. It's like, wow, look at the movement. Like, let's unify this movement. And I think that that's where we just need to think about what are those places where we can organically highlight your groups and what you're doing, so it comes across as like connected and powerful.
Jack, can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah.
I'm joining a bit late here. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Reuter, CEO of Spikeball. I'm seeing some familiar faces here, so hello to you and everybody. To the point of the question of, what can we do to, not only help sort of market what's going on in your local areas, but also just the sport as a whole. We have been having those conversations internally, and if you just look at most of our marketing, we're trying to build the brand of Spikeball. We're trying obviously to get more people buying the product itself. And, we've got this sort of balance of, okay, we got the company on one side and developing a global sport on the other. And how do we balance those two with sort of limited resources? And these are relatively new conversations we've been having around, okay, what the company has some resources that, the rest of the world doesn't. So what can we do to help? So we don't have the answer yet, but the conversations are happening. And, we are talking about, okay, does it make sense to start carving out more goals around, the sport as a whole? Largely that has been tournaments. Historically, I should say that has been, sort of around how many tournaments and how many players. And while that's a fine metric, there's way more going on in the sport than just tournaments. All of the groups that all of you have formed are just a fantastic sign of that. So I don't know what the answer is yet, but I do want you all to know it is absolutely on the radar and we're thinking about it. And especially Jack and Nora are digging very deep into it. Christina's digging very deep into it. So it's definitely on the radar and getting more attention than it was today than yesterday. But more to come on that.
I've got one question on that, and thanks, Chris. I know last year Spikeball did some social media advertising for individual, whether it was states, cities, but for pickup games, and I remember seeing some of ours that they came from Spikeball and said, hey, come to pickup games Wednesday nights in West Jordan, whatever. And I think it went to download the app or something like that. Were those successful? I'm kind of curious what if anyone from the Spikeball marketing side could maybe share on those.
Yeah, I can touch on this. This is Christina speaking. Thanks for the question, Taylor. So for those of you who weren't aware, we were testing out marketing different hubs, so to speak, throughout the country. But the issue that we ran in with that was that when we do a targeted marketing campaign on social media, we're looking to target people who have had some kind of experience with our brand before. So then when you target based on people who have had an experience with Spikeball, plus we're targeting people within maybe 10 or 15 miles of a specific hub, that total pool is now just minimized dramatically. So I think in the end, we saw results that were a little bit less promising than we had anticipated, but I think moving forward, as more people do become aware of spikeball and that, I guess, pool, so to speak, that we get to be able to pull from when it comes to marketing, I think results would get better in time, but they just weren't worth, I guess, the money in if we were to do it again right now, so to speak. Does that answer your question, Taylor?
Yes, yep. I was very curious. Yeah. So thank you.
Yep.
Jack, I think it's a good topic about how we can draw on some of your resources. One of the things that I've been thinking about is working out how we use the Spikeball app to maximize benefit for our community and the sporting goals that we have in Australia. So I don't know if this is on the agenda, and I'd really love to know how other organizations are using it outside of the US. In conversations that we've had with, say, peak body sort of sporting organizations, one of the difficult metrics to get is how are people playing recreationally. Because we can get tournament numbers and we can get stats and all that sort of stuff, but we're looking at how surfing in Australia is a big recreational sport, but it is also a formal sport as well, and had the wrestle between the formal sport trying to understand how widely surfing is enjoyed and played, so to speak, to justify some of their funding positions and that sort of stuff with the government. That got me thinking about the Spikeball app and going, well, is that something that other organizations around the world are using? And if so, maybe in the pipeline we could have more of the Spikeball app supporting other countries, whether there's tabs or whatever. I know you can, obviously see who's playing near you and that sort of thing, but maybe more, encouragement and people who are on the app to hook into their national organizations. But yeah, happy to hear how people are using it and if there's any thoughts on that.
So I think that that feedback comes at a great time, because we are in the midst of, just basically we rebuilt our app from the ground up. We hired a full-time developer, and so we're being able to incorporate a lot of stuff that we did not have the flexibility to change or edit, using a different platform. When you were talking, one of the things that I thought was interesting is this idea that if you had more information about what was going on in, play-wise in your area, that you could leverage that to get more resources, to get more funding, to whatever it is. And so I think that is, like, even if that isn't functionality that is built out where you can access it or control something, I think that is definitely a way that we can think about, as long as we know, like, hey, this would benefit you, we can probably be able to pull some information that we have. If we have the access to it on the back end, I don't see any reason why we can't give that to you in aggregate to help you build what you're doing, and just really move you along at a faster trajectory by sharing what we know about play and that sort of information.
I think that would be invaluable to us. I mean, none of us want to go out and build another app that does the same things that you guys do, that already has access to people all around the world. So that data would be really powerful, I think, because that helps to bridge the gap between that paid membership model, which we're all sort of wrestling. How do we incentivize that? How do we make that happen? How do we store information safely, etc.? But then just getting the real data of who's actually playing. To me, if you had both things, you're starting to get a really accurate picture, and arguably, more accurate than most sports out there. And that's the beauty of really the requirement of having to have 4 people. So I think there's an opportunity for the sport to really not just catch up to other sports in that regard, but actually kind of lead the charge. There could be some, because you're sort of writing the rules from the beginning, there's an opportunity there to have information at your fingertips that's more powerful than most.
Yeah, and we traditionally think of our end user of the app as the person looking to create the pickup game, but this conversation is just interesting to envision it as like, how does a recognized organization, what are their needs? How can we build it out with you guys as an end user in mind as well, to help, because really, like, it's hard to say, but every organization, you help just connect so many people that, like, you guys are almost like you perform the work of the app yourselves. Like, you bring people together, you help them organize games. So if we can tie those two things together, it's kind of it's just a lot of synergy there of being able to make it work for you, because you're already doing the work of that the app was built to do for people that, like, don't have an organization near them or an organizer near them. So if we can make the app powerful for the organizer, then it just like skyrockets everything.
Yeah, that would be great if we can do like if built into the app, we're us RROs or other whatever, club leaders, whether official or not, but if there's another, like, not admin as an app admin, but like an admin user where, it's, hey, this is your official, geographical area, organization. And I think that would be huge in helping people realize that, hey, these are official tournaments. Because I've always thought that. I know, as RROs, we are, technically, the approved for our geographical region. But, like, obviously we don't want to, like, shut other people down. But at the same time, I don't want people taking away, the monopoly I've created here in Utah. And so, if there's a way to kind of help support us to make sure people understand that, hey, this is the official group. Other people can still do tournaments, but this is the official group. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Could there maybe be like a way to, like, almost give RROs and like RRO leaders like almost like a verified checklist similar to like social media, just so it like validates like that this is a leader in this community? And like, if you, like, for me, like, if you don't know me, I'm from Chicago. If somebody in the Chicagoland area wants to like get into RoundNet more, like, they can somehow find me, see that I'm verified or whatever term you want to use for Chicago. They can message me and then I can like point them in the right direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
So thank you all for bringing up all those different points. If you didn't already know, a lot of you guys know me from our ambassador program or from the RRO emails, but I also work very closely with our Spikeball app and the people who work on developing the app, as well as all the ideas and just what the future app will look like. So a lot of what we're doing with the new development of the app, we took everything that you guys have given us, all the feedback about the current app, what you would like to see, kind of the tools in app that would make it easier for tournament directors as well as recognized RoundNet organizations. So we are looking to do something like Taylor and Wyatt were talking about making like a verified badge for RROs, just to set your tournaments and SRA tournaments apart from just a random accidentally muted myself. But so yes, we're working on that. And also, if you guys have any additional requests or just recommendations for the future of the app, we are planning on like finishing up development of the first round within the next month or two. But we're also looking at what phase 2 and phase 3 of future developments will look like. So if you guys have recommendations, feel free to email partnerships@spikeball.com. I personally look through that email inbox, so it'll go directly to me, and I can then use those recommendations and propose them to the team. So just know that if you do have any suggestions, we will love to hear them. So please send them my way.
Hi, it's Renato from Brew. I just had a question. It's sort of related to trying to get more people to play the sport, not necessarily as a competition, but just recreationally. And I don't know if it's the same for other countries, but here most people know the sport as spikeball rather than round net. So I think we've been having some challenges to get the word out to more people to play. We've been able to build a strong community within sort of a small group, but I was wondering if is there any chance to leverage more the Spikeball brand as ambassadors or recognized organizations for the commercial side or for the non-competition side, and obviously maintain the rounded association part as a properly sport going forward to the future, you know?
So for, like that is one of the things that as a recognized organization, we, you have the ability to potentially use logos, use language that is restricted for others, because we're saying you guys are already vetted. We have a relationship with you. You're following things by the book. But like, if there is a case where you want, like there's something, a specific instance where you want to use it in a certain way or, on a certain item, then like that is a possibility. But
what I meant is, for example, like we currently have like social media accounts all under Rounded Peru, but maybe having like Spikeball Peru, like properly using the brand and obviously respecting all the parameters that you would tell us, but maybe having like parallel accounts, one that serves for the commercial side, being able to sell more sets, being able to reach more people since people are more familiar with the Spikeball brand rather than with the name of the sport, and obviously maintain all the organizational part of being able to host tournaments and do all the national things that we're looking forward to do.
Yeah. So I think that it gets tricky when it comes down to the commercial side of it. If somebody could be confused whether they're buying from Spikeball or Spikeball Peru, that is the complexity of it, right? We have a certain policy, you have a different policy. They thought one thing and it was the other. And that's the very tricky piece. I think, what we don't want to do is we don't want to make it harder for you to get people playing. We don't want to make it harder for you to create awareness. We do want you to be able to leverage the Spikeball brand and everything that, when we have something that blows up on social media, we want that to trickle down into all the other organizations. But we need to do that in a way where it doesn't create any confusion between the sport and the brand. And I get that that's a murky area, but we're trying to also on our end be better about promoting RoundNet, right? Like as Spikeball, we use RoundNet more. We're trying to popularize RoundNet so that there isn't such a discrepancy between the awareness of the brand and the awareness of the sport. And that's something that we have to catch up on, right? There's a gap and we need to catch up. But I think that if it's a usage thing, those are all kind of like case by case basis. I think in some cases we'd give the thumbs up and say, yeah, like this makes sense. In other cases, it just creates too much confusion or there's too much potential for something to go wrong. And we're like, you know what? We're trying to make sure that we don't further widen that gap, right? So it's tricky. I understand where you're coming from, but if there are like specific instances, I think that like we can dig into those. And as recognized organizations where we know you're doing the right thing, I think like we've worked with people like Taylor and like co-branded some stuff together, and it's not like it was just like all thumbs up. Of course, go run with it, do what you want. We collaborated on it. It worked. It didn't cause confusion. So, somebody that we know and trust, and like that.
Yeah,
with any
we've been able to talk a lot with Joel, and we've managed to do a lot of things together. But that thing was still like pending on see how to actually being able to do it. I think there are some really good, like well done, well executed cases here in Latin America, at least of South America. So maybe there's like a business model to follow there.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Hi, Sam here from Ireland. I know at our stage of development that we're going to universities and to kind of schools as well. And one bit of information that they all want, and I can feel they want it, and I'm giving them just a guess at this stage, is the number of people playing worldwide and kind of simple stats like that. I know with Round It World, we tried to do that and get information from RROs and came out with a pretty underwhelming figure in the first place. I think Spikeball would be definitely the best place to do that. And I know I've talked to Jack and to Chris as well about how they plan on doing it in the future with the app. But I think right now, not a lot of us international communities use the app as much. So you might be missing out on some valuable information there. So one way I would say, and it seems like an easy solution to the problem, is that all the emails on this call could literally just send some basic information like the number of people playing, I don't know, the mix of genders, that kind of stuff. And you could form it into something really valuable for all of us to use going forward to kind of get across the, I don't know, the worldwide global aspect of it to these big organizations.
Yeah. And, I'll add something else that we're doing. And, if this, maybe even at your own levels, it makes sense. So we do something called an aided awareness survey. So basically, unaided awareness is you ask somebody to list, list sports that you play at the beach, and you see how many people would list round net, right? And maybe there's 2% of people that without, kind of being given a little prompting would say round net. And then we do it where we show them, a list of sports, and we say, how many of these sports do you recognize? And basically what we could do is we can compare the number of people that recognize our sport in this big survey to other sports and try to move ourselves into the range of, oh, wow, this is, like people know about what this is. That's the way we kind of scale it, is by using these aided awareness surveys. And so we're trying to push to be closer to sports that, we consider pretty well known. So like closer to a volleyball or something like that. And obviously that takes a long time, but that is one of the metrics that we use aside from just like players, is what is our aided awareness, just to give you guys like a sense of how we look at things. So, and another thing that, somewhat gives the, and I know we talked about this a little bit, Simon, it somewhat gives the, is a proxy, but isn't exact, is when we think about how many spike ball sets are out there in the world, right? And if we think about that and we think about, well, is every spike ball set 4 people playing? Then we know that, we're in the millions of players, if that's the case, which is kind of crazy. And like of those millions of players, our issues like creating this funnel where we get more of them into the sport versus just existing as a game. We want to move them from game to sport so that our sport has that same power. I think right now the game is powerful and the sport is getting there. But when we create a better funnel, we really start to move.
And just a note on that, the part of the game I'm trying to sell or to advertise to these colleges is the sports side of it. So that is information that all these RROs hold. I mean, Jack said 25 members or something like that. And I'm sure he could underestimate that, but everyone has a general idea of the competitive side of it. So maybe that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I think another important point that you've raised that we haven't spoke about on this call yet is in terms of universities. I think there's a massive market for expanding, as you say, Simon, the sport side of things. Just because here in Great Britain, frisbee took off through university. I'm at university at the moment, and I'd never really heard of frisbee as a sport, and now the only thing I hear my friends talking to me about is frisbee. And so pushing other RROs to look towards pushing round net as a sport at university is massive, because people go to university, they want to try out something new. And I definitely think round net is the right place for universities or university students to pick something up. And if other RROs can kind of push that more so, it will definitely pick up.
Yeah,
Hey,
if we want to talk a little bit
high school.
about university and college play, that's definitely been a place where at Spikeball we've seen tremendous growth. And I would say that, our strategy has kind of been to focus on forming official clubs, right? So when we first started our college round net series, it was about just like, hey, get anybody from the school to come out and play, and that'll be great. And what we found was that, like we have different schools participating every time it happens. We don't have like this core group. And so when we started to focus on clubs, then they, like you guys as ROs, they had to become official and do a certain level of work. So they had to fill out paperwork to, be registered with their school. They had to, figure out when their practice times were going to be. They had to follow certain rules, and it's a little more upfront work. But by doing that, by having to like create a constitution around, for their club, they built something that was sustainable, because when that senior graduates, they aren't just like thinking about it from themselves. They're building something that's long lasting, the same way you guys are doing this with your RRO. So if you are to go after universities, I think that, if you can encourage people to form official clubs, then they can start to get that funding from their school. They could start to build that thing that just sticks around. And once you get the one club formed and solid, like you can just start to plant seeds, and it really grows. That's what we've seen, is just like investing in helping people get their clubs off the ground versus just coming at it like, hey, we just want college age kids to play, or we just, come out, whatever, loosey goosey and represent your school. We didn't want to create too many barriers to entry, but when we made it official, when we made them do some of the work, it really built up the organization and helped it scale. So that would be just my perspective from, this was an initiative we started basically 2016, 2017 was when we first started college, and it's just been growing tremendously. Now we have basically like 100 official unique college clubs that, are getting funding and getting the school bus to be able to drive to events, and it's pretty incredible. So I definitely would encourage that, and I think it's a great route to go.
Another thing with clubs is, because this sport's just 2v2, you could just stick with your 4 people and play. So that's where we introduced the, like, I guess we call it club, but the club part of the brackets, you have to build out your squads. Thank you. So you have to build out your team like we're going to do with Worlds. So that's a huge one as well. And then I can also connect you guys with some of our top leaders in the US. I don't know how similar or different like the US college system versus international university system is, but they can at least give you an idea of, and they've grown some great clubs. So we can connect on that as well. I meet with them like every 2 weeks.
Any other topics? I said I wouldn't take a whole 2 hours, but we're inching closer.
I've got one question, and I know about half of the people have had to take off by now, but I'm just curious what everyone's goals are. I know, kind of going back to the poll that Nora and Jack put out about, your nonprofit, profit, just kind of casual. What does everyone want to be? Like, I mean, I'm curious how many people in here want to make it a business, how many people are just trying to, just make it fun for a few years, maybe pass the torch. I want to know what other people are doing.
Taylor, you want to just start off by explaining what you're doing?
I am in it to do this full time. So in about a couple of years, I should be able to quit my day job, which I've just been, had a video call that I put on mute because I like Spikeball more. I don't do it for the money, but I do it because it's a career that I will actually enjoy doing. So, yeah, I'm in it. So my goal is, as many participants, as many tournaments throughout the year, because that's how you make revenue. And that's how I survive profitably.
Cool. Other people with your own kind of goals for your organization? Anybody else in it kind of as a business or a career like Taylor?
Yeah, I guess good question. When you ask what are the goals, how I've got a very long list of goals to achieve, whether it's from the business side of things or the sport side of things. I mean, we've talked a little bit about getting funding and that sort of stuff. That's a massive checklist. But yeah, personally, I did quit my day job. So I got 3 kids to feed. So sustainability is really, really important. And that's probably the word I tend to use because, yeah, I mean, we need to be profitable. And the reason why we want to be profitable is because we want to be sustainable. And the reason why we want it to be a sport that grows, across Australia and has, that unaided awareness. And the reason why I want people to be playing it is so that we are sustainable in the long run. So, basketball was invented you remind people basketball was invented. There was a time when people didn't know what it was. Same thing here with round net. We want people to engage because that will give us that sustainability that we're after. But yeah, for sure, it has to be profitable for us. And I've taken the dive, quit day job, so I can do this, which is more fun and certainly hopefully pay the bills too.
Awesome. Anybody who's taking it from a different angle, maybe just like 1 or 2 people talking from a nonprofit perspective, people that had formed nonprofits?
At GB RoundNet, we're a non-profit, so all the money that is invested by our members through their membership, or the money that they use to buy their tickets to come to our tournaments, which is amazing, all gets put back in the pot. And I think we make that really, really clear to everyone that's involved in our community that we are run by them. So whilst I chair GB RoundNet, if the members that are part of our membership group didn't like what I was doing or didn't like what one of the team were doing, they could just kick us off. They could say, right, well, we're gonna all band together, and if over 3/4 of our members say we didn't want you here anymore, I'm gone. And I think that is, I wanted to set that up from the beginning to show our dedication to our members about the fact that we're here for them and we're here to grow the sport rather than to create a business out of it. Although I recognise that making a business out of it is actually a really good way to expand sport as well. And also there are other not-for-profit RROs that are people, I mean, netball in Great Britain is a great example. They're a not-for-profit, but they have people working for them full time because they class as a not-for-profit and they can pay themselves out of that. So yeah, who knows? In 10 years' time, if I could do this as a real job, I would. But at the moment, with our membership numbers so low, it's not looking feasible. But we are a not-for-profit, and I think I guess the one thing I would say, if people are down that route as other RROs, is to make sure people know that, because we've had a lot of people saying, where's my money going? Where's this money going? And yeah, making that really clear distinction, I think, is really important as to what your goals are.
Yeah.
Speaking on behalf of Round the World, I suppose, as an independent business, but obviously very linked to the success of Spikeball in the first place, see a lot of people out there now kind of trying to set up their own brands and then sell products that we're talking about, like How to Round That and Chris Hornacek and stuff like that. Just definitely want to encourage people who are leaders in their community, either them or people in their community, to be as innovative and enterprising as possible, because there's a lot of stuff that we're a growing community, and there's going to be more and more stuff that people require either as a service to learn or as a product. So there's plenty of opportunities out there for you.
When I first met Simon, the ball they were using was probably 3 times the size that you should. So those educational resources are needed, because who knows where Ireland would still be if we hadn't come across the water and showed them how to properly inflate a ball.
Ooh,
I wouldn't have caught on either.
Every time I see someone new at the park, I'm like, all right, you can't play with this ball anymore. Use mine here.
All right, guys. This was really helpful for me. I hope it was helpful for you as well. If there's any other follow-ups, ideas, anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. All of our emails are just our first name at Spikeball, except for Tom Rogers, who's T Rogers at Spikeball. But yeah, this is really helpful. I think like the reason we wanted to do this is we're all working for the same thing. And if there's ways that we can help you guys, or even just help you guys get better connected and share best practices or leverage things that we've built or we have, or make awareness, around things that you're doing. That's the point of this. We're all trying to make this the next great global sport. And when we have like a 2-hour call with 30 plus people all over the world dialing in at like 4 a.m., 3 a.m., Hong Kong, Australia, Denmark, it's Egypt. It's pretty clear that we're headed there. We're gonna do it. So I'm just pumped from this call. And yeah, if there's anything else that you guys think of, let us know. And I think we should be doing more of these because it just helps us all get on the same page. So thank you guys. Don't want to take up any more of your time, and really appreciate all the feedback and just sticking around with us and letting us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Chris, anything you'd like to say before we?
Yes, earlier I listed some key Spikeball employees who have been critical in getting us this far, and I did not mention Joel and Tom. So I apologize. They have, as everybody in this call, I'm assuming you've spoken with them at least once or twice. They've been absolutely critical as well. And yeah, just seeing everybody here and just seeing the random times and countries all over the world, like there's something happening here. I feel very fortunate to be a part of it. And I am incredibly excited to see where it goes, and please keep these suggestions coming. Nobody knows how to build the market better in your hometowns and countries than you. I really wish we had answers and we could just freely distribute them to anybody that wanted them, but you guys have them. So please keep tapping all of us on the shoulder and let us know what we can do. Be patient when the answer sometime is gonna have to be no. But hopefully the yeses will be able to outnumber the nos. Yeah, let me know when the next one of this is. I know I showed up late, but this is just awesome and very inspiring just to kind of see everybody. So thank you, Jack and Nora, and anybody else who helped, all of you for helping put this together. So this was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And we'll be sending out this video to anybody else who either had to watch it at 4 a.m. or just wasn't able to attend.
Thank you all.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for that.